All right. Television commentator, school instructor, and former AJ Foyt IndyCar driver, Brian Till. If you could describe this dinner we just had in one word, what would it be?
Oh.
Did I say Bill?
You said
what would it be?
No, go with it.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're live.
No,
Mics are hot.
You just...
Hot mics.
And I completely forgot, see?
What would it be? It's just a fucking word.
Spicy.
It's all right.
Yeah, okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Stop and hold.
Plus 30.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Welcome to Dinner with Racers. I'm your host, Ryan Eversley.
And I'm the less known guy, Sean Heckman.
Hey, Sean, how you doing? Well, you better be doing great because we're headed to the airport, my friend, on day 34 of Season 3. Wrapping this thing up after a 13,000-mile trip across 25 states to bring you guys 29 episodes for free of your favorite podcast in motorsports that's based around dinner.
For free.
We met up with Brian Till.
Brian B. Till.
Brian Till is a former IndyCar driver, now more known as an on-air commentator, as well as race steward and director.
Brian's a really cool story because he's kind of done it all in the sport. He did everything right in the junior categories, won a bunch of stuff, won a bunch of championships, got a couple of opportunities in IndyCar, and then transitioned to a career in broadcasting. But since then, he continues to instruct. He's now entered life as a race steward, still doing broadcasting. He's a guy who, we hate the expression, guy who wears many hats. And actually, I've never seen Brian wear a hat because his hair is glamorous.
It is perfect every time.
But if you wanted to wear proverbial hats, he'd have a lot of them. So we learned a lot of things about Brian. He talked about racing in the Indy 500.
Driving for AJ Foyt for one race.
Chartering private aviation for every race.
Because he's balling out.
Balling out.
Balling out.
The fun of being a driver steward that's a former driver.
And life with Dorsey Schrader.
So I am not making this up. We legitimately met on National Hair Day.
What?
Yeah, that's no joke.
I didn't know that.
At the Cantina Laredo in Columbus, Ohio.
I had enchiladas, but I also shared nachos with Brian Till, which is how I know he's a good dude.
I enjoyed my chicken sandwich.
You did not have a chicken sandwich.
I did have
you
a chicken
did not
sandwich.
at the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
You had a chicken sandwich
I had
at the
Mexican sandwich.
You did, dude.
It was called...
We can't get to Atlanta fast enough.
It was
here.
called El Sandwich de Pollo.
That's what they called it?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
El Sandwich de Pollo.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
Produce a
Yeah, yeah.
receipt.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see a receipt.
Yeah, I've got everything.
Let's see it.
Do you guys know I'm originally from Cleveland?
Dario.
This has nothing to do with you right now. Okay?
What the hell?
Not everything is about you.
By the way, Dario's driving the car. All right, we're moving on.
Believe it.
Acura MDX. And of course, it was sponsored. This whole thing was sponsored.
Thanks to our sponsors.
Sponsors.
Play. Press play.
No. Who are they?
Oh, we have to say the name?
Yeah, you have to say the name. That's how this works.
That's it.
Yeah.
I forgot who
If you want a free podcast,
Who is it? I forgot.
you need sponsors.
I forgot who it was.
You really don't know who we're talking about.
Who are the sponsors?
The tire company?
Oh, God. Continental Tire.
Boom.
I'm a monkey.
Yeah. Marketing. You just got marketed. Marketed.
Lubing the deals.
Brian Till.
All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
You made it. Welcome. Yeah. This is how it goes. Join us. With utensils.
You sit down. We'll take
a
care
seat.
of it.
All right, we're broadcast professionals.
Oh, how long you been here? You dick.
We literally had...
I've noticed you got to see close to the bar.
Yeah, well, it's the electrical, really. But I'll lie and say that I'm close to the bar. I'm drunk already.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get you some drinks.
See, and this is like the challenge.
Of which direction and how to put it on? Have you never put one of these on before?
I think I'm pretty sure he just doesn't want to mess up his hair.
Ah, yeah, exactly. Your hair is possibly more glamorous than
Is
ever.
it spectacular?
It's
Pretty
fantastic.
damn good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I'm doing a broadcast. This feels wrong because I'm drinking. It
Wait,
makes
wait,
me-
why are you wearing
or I will
pants?
be soon.
Let's say, isn't that just part of the job?
Soon it'll be like Dorsey.
This is a little different than your line of work because the ambient sounds of eating and people in the background, that's actually part of the experience.
It's like kind of crunch
Yeah, exactly.
tortilla chips.
Yep.
I like it.
You know,
Good.
just like on
Yeah.
on TV.
You're 2 packets in.
Oh yeah, no, we're about to go 2 packets in
Yeah.
once we get our. It took a little while to get our drinks.
Strangely, Sean's diet of Monster Energy drinks and chicken sandwiches
Create headaches?
not great for you.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew? Do you know how old I am?
No, how old are you?
I'm curious what you think. Take a guess.
We just found out how old you are.
Yeah.
73.
Yeah.
You look
Damn
great.
good.
Yeah.
Damn good. I don't know.
Take a guess.
Early 40s?
Close enough. 38.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy the range of people. It's like some people think I'm like 50.
No.
Like Eddie Gossage, not joking, legitimately thought I was 48 last year.
See, I was
Doug
thinking.
Bowles thought the
yeah.
same thing.
See, I was thinking 30s was too young, not because of the way you look.
Oh no, you can say it because it's the way I look.
No, it's
I'm
not the
totally
way
fine
you
with
look.
that. You
It's-
can't say it's my maturity because
No,
we all
it's your
fucking know
persona.
that. Of being completely mature
I
and
just
wiser.
figure 40 plus is kind of where you were from a maturity standpoint.
Yeah, I'm angry.
I shouldn't
yeah.
say mature.
Yeah, maturity is not accurate. Anger or just sort of like kind of deflated persona, maybe. Yeah, absolutely.
Just like beaten.
beaten down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait till you get to be 57.
Well, that's
Which
what we were talking
just
about.
talking about this for 57. Like, nice job. Yeah. What's the secret?
A lot of plastic surgery.
Like, I legitimately thought you were like mid 40s.
But I need to have my eyes done. See?
Oh, here it comes. Now
See-
this is why you know
see-
he's been on
Look,
TV.
see all the skin?
Okay.
Now, if I did that,
Uh-huh.
see?
No, see,
See?
Yeah.
I'm blind to all that stuff. Like when girls are like, yeah, I have to get rid of this or that. I'm like,
Well, there, you need to be blind to that. You just say,
No, I literally am like,
Wouldn't know.
like if it's here, I'm pretty aware. But
Where?
otherwise, here,
I can't see. Your computer's in my way. Give me the
it's-
words.
What's
as
a
to where-
podcast? If it's here, I'm on top of it.
This is making
Yeah.
a great podcast.
It was Ryan that said that. I have no idea.
Yeah,
what he's
no,
talking
no.
about.
You're-
I was
you're on the
talking
up and
about
up.
my eyes.
So, a recent thing that's happened with some of our guests that are known for having fabulous hair is we just get right into what they use. So, what's the secret?
You know, I'm not happy. I had a hair product like several years ago that they don't make anymore, and I can't remember what it was,
Soul Glow.
but I know they don't make it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I can't find it. So I've kind of created my own.
Oh, okay.
It's a combination of a couple of things.
It's just like the
and
the
you're not
petty
gonna
blue.
spill
You're
it
not going to
'cause-
spill it. Like this is your thing.
No,
I don't
mean,
want Schrader to know.
No, I mean,
Calvin.
Calvin.
Calvin. Yeah.
For sure.
I'm worried though it's going to create like a bigger bald spot. That
Right.
see. You have a bald spot?
No.
You sure?
I've got the 2-car garage.
Yeah, but
That's what I
You
got.
sure you don't have a bald spot?
Back spot's
You
good.
sure?
Yeah, no, Pompelli
Have you
actually
looked?
does. Yeah, no, I've looked because I saw Pompelli's. Granted, he's 15 years older than me. And I saw it the other day and I thought, oh, and so I tried to look
Well,
too.
yeah.
I'm okay. I've got
So-
a cowlick and that's all.
So I've given Calvin grief about
yeah.
a thinning patch
Right.
in the back for a long time, and then somebody took a picture. I don't know. It was a few months ago, and I'm like,
Yep.
You kind of asked for that.
holy crap!
Yeah.
And so I started looking, and so I was doing the thing with the phone and holding it upside, and
Right,
like,
right.
can I get a picture of it? And I'm like,
Right.
I don't know, I can't tell. And my wife was like, no.
Well, she
No.
probably just doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old,
Okay.
both boys.
Okay.
We were sitting there, it's probably 4 or 5 weeks ago now. And my youngest son, who will say
Whatever.
anything,
Yeah.
to I mean, thought in, thought out,
There it goes. Yeah.
walks by and goes, Dad, you got a bald spot in back. And I looked at my wife.
like, you said
Yeah, exactly. With like shock and awe on my
Right.
face. And she goes, honey, no, it's thinning a little bit. It's
Yeah.
not. And now I don't look anymore.
You have enough of a flowing mane, though. I feel like if you did, you could kind of just comb over straight back.
Yeah. Or
you
at least
do-
distract.
Yeah, I just grow it long enough and just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly
Go
right.
for it.
You're going to be just fine.
I'm just going to do the Matt Lauer at some point in time.
Yeah. Just commit to it.
Where you come from?
Just preparing.
Well, right.
For dish. Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
what
In my
bar?
office.
What bar?
I have a 17 and 14-year-old, and they're both boys, and they're both big-time baseball players. So 14-year-old has fall ball going on, and today was his last ball game, and I have not been to any of his fall ball games because I've been out of town so much. And so today was his last day, and I was supposed to do a school up at Mid-Ohio, but I said, find somebody else. I got to go to the ball game. It was just going to be a 9-inning game.
Among the caricatures, which dad are you? Are you the one getting in fights? I really hope you're the one getting in fights.
Like shirt off,
yeah,
screaming
Come
again.
on! Like screaming at umps. How dare you? By the way, what the is baseball?
I will tell you that. Yeah, you know,
okay.
yeah. And I try not to. I really do.
Give me an example.
I try not to.
You try not to, but that means you have.
I have.
Okay.
You know, when your cub gets mistreated,
Okay.
you know,
Cub.
Papa Bear has to.
Now, is this with the ump or with the coach?
Usually with the umpire.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed to say, but
do you have your kid's coach's phone number in your phone?
No.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
You're
You
getting
got
progress. That's
at least.
progress.
Yeah.
I don't have. I mean, I won't say I've never had a problem with a coach, but
Sure, but you're not the guy that
I'm
calls
not
him
the-
like
no,
a couple times a week, like, "Hey, my kid's not getting enough time."
No. First of all, because my kids are good enough that they get plenty. of time.
Oh, there it is.
Boom.
But no, it's just. And look, and you know, one of the roles that I fill is basically being an umpire. So
Right.
you know what this last 2.5, 3 years has been? Payback.
Yeah,
It's been a payback
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
every umpire that I've sat behind and gone,
Yep.
that is pathetic. That is pathetic.
And so just put this some context in case people don't know. I mean, some people know you as like, you know, the guy on TV or the guy that used to run IndyCars or whatever, but you took on a role with the World Challenge 3 years ago.
Yeah.
To be kind of initially sort of like the lead official, and now it's kind of a team of you guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of morphed over the years.
I'm the driver steward. Dorsey's
Right.
the race director, and
Right.
Peter Roberts is the chief steward. but
Right. So now you're on the dark side of things.
I'm
so
on
to
the dark
speak,
side
and
of
you've been
things,
for
yeah.
a couple of years. So, and it's been through some of the tough times of World Challenge over the last couple of years. I mean, like for example, I think of say Long Beach 2015.
Oh yeah.
I didn't do that one.
Was that not you? Oh, you got off on a good one.
No, but you were at St. Pete, and because you had TV responsibilities
Right.
as well, so
Right.
it's still something you're gonna have to come back and deal with going forward for
Yeah.
the rest of the year.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I was at St. Pete, and then I couldn't do Long Beach because I had both IndyCar and sports car duties,
Right.
and there was just no way to get over to do the race, and obviously that one didn't go well.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends on whose side.
Well, fine for
you're
you.
on,
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you know walk back into the hornet's nest.
Right.
Afterwards, but
But that's my point. It's like, as a broadcaster, you have to see everybody on another day. You know, like for example,
Yeah.
in World Challenge, you're at a lot of the IMSA races as a pit lane reporter, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of crossover between
Sure.
teams, crew, drivers, personnel, that kind of thing. And you're going to have to occasionally make a call that's unpopular and then go out and face it. I mean, we talked to Bo about the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that doesn't cross your mind, but at the same point, it doesn't make it any less of a burden.
No, I mean, it doesn't make it any less of a burden, but it really doesn't cross my mind. And I think
Right.
I said, and you were probably in the driver's meeting.
I was probably there. I might not have heard it.
Yeah.
But I put out some sweet tweets.
Where I said, you know, somebody in this room, and the reason why I said that is because somebody had gone to the officials and said, you know, he's afraid of making calls. Actually, they said Brian and Dorsey are afraid of making calls because that team runs in another series, and they don't want to have to interview him. Of course, the first thing that was wrong with it is Dorsey doesn't do television stuff anymore.
Right.
So-
So
Was
there's
that
that.
Mossport drivers meeting?
It
I
may have
remember
been.
we had
Yeah,
this
it
guy.
may
I
have
remember
been.
being like, "Oh, this is good. Like, I'll pay attention
Yeah,
now."
and second of all, I don't care. I mean, and I don't say I don't care from the side of, you know, to hell with everybody. I'll just do what I want. But I don't care because the two roles are very separate, and I think that's the one where I said this is probably what you remember. If you think that I'm afraid to make somebody mad that I won't get an interview from them, then you don't understand television. You need me more than I need you.
Boom. I like it. Yeah.
I was
that's
sitting there and I'm
true.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
like, doesn't everybody realize that?
I mean, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but it's like the fact of the matter is you want me to come and talk to you.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's one of those things where, in the television world, and I always tell young guys when we do media coaching and stuff, there are only 3 reasons that I'm going to come and talk to you. One's that you won, one's that you're a co-driver and you're doing pretty good, or the other one's that you had a problem.
Right.
So unlike football, I think it was Woody Hayes that said, when you throw a football, only 3 things can happen, and only one of them's good.
Yeah.
Right. And in television and motorsports, 2 of them are good and only one of them is bad. But, the fact is, even if it's bad, you want to be able to tell me your side of what went wrong. And you still get your sponsors on, and you still get FaceTime and all of that. And I simply meant the idea that I'm going to be afraid to go talk to somebody is silly. The 2 roles are completely different. And I think, I think I know you well enough. I certainly know me well enough. I know other guys well enough. Johnny O'Connell is a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I have certainly, in the 3 years with World Challenge, I've made calls against Johnny, who I probably know better than any other driver in the paddock. And I say this, I don't know, I'll probably get a text from him.
Go for it.
No, I don't love you anymore. But and it's just the way it is, And I'll tell you the guy that, and you guys mentioned it, the guy that I try to emulate to some degree, which is so funny, is Bo.
Sure.
And I've literally known Bo since he was about 2.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Because I started racing in the Southwest Division of the SCCA. His dad was racing, and I met Bo Barfield when he was a little carpet rat running around Texas World Speedway while his dad was racing. So, and I've watched him come through the driving side of things and then to the official side of things. He's got such a cool, level head. And he and I talk about it a lot. I see him obviously on IMSA weekends, and we're good friends. And, I think we have somewhat of the same philosophy, but a different delivery. He's much more laid back.
Always.
Always.
Yeah. But I got you.
I guess probably because I've raised 2 kids, and I think we've done a good job. Actually, Leslie's probably raised them more than I have.
Sure.
That there's a time and a place, and if you need to get loud, then you need to get loud.
I guess for me, I prefer to have you and Dorsey as chiefs, as driver stewards than like a Peter Roberts even, because I don't know that Peter Roberts has ever strapped in a helmet, got in a race car and gone out and done the job. And I'm not saying he's incapable or whatever, but for my preference, I want somebody that I know has risked their life, has driven against people, has had fits of anger and an immediate reaction.
Never.
You know what I mean?
Never.
I'm talking about Dorsey here.
Yeah.
To me, that means something, because I've come up against stewards in the past that would tell you what you did wrong, and you're like, but no, I saved an accident from happening.
We're going to make mistakes, and we're not going to see everything. But what I won't do, and I'm not going to make a call based upon somebody's onboard video after the race. I'm not going to go back and call balls and strikes in the 7th inning based upon.
Well, you can't.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is
I wasn't looking for that.
No,
my particular
you're
case,
looking for an apology.
I wanted to hear you didn't do the wrong thing, because it makes me look bad to the guy I'm driving for.
Absolutely.
Who's like, you got to drive through. I'm like,
absolutely.
No,
Well, and this may not be true, but I'd heard that, on the official side at World Challenge, you guys don't accept teams onboard video.
No.
And I assume, and when somebody told me that, this is bullshit, and I was like, no, that makes total sense, because then there's 40 teams all showing their onboards, and it's 2 of you trying to look through all this.
Bo won't look at him at IMSA either.
Yeah, no, it's a good rule.
We can't.
Yeah, it's
we have our cameras that we'll look at.
Right.
But, the problem is, you want to know.
Right.
In the race, if it's lap 2 and I make a call and say, I'm going to drive Ryan through.
Right.
He may be pissed, but he's got 50
he now
minutes
can make up for it, right?
to make it up.
Right.
Yeah.
If he comes in after the race and I go, on lap 2,
Yeah. Right.
you did this.
Little
so now,
did you know. Yeah.
Now, we just finished under full course caution.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And what
You
chance
lost
did he
all
have?
his
And I'm going to give you a 45-second drive through penalty.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
It's like he just went from 3rd to DFL.
Right.
The most common thing you hear with being a steward, or maybe even a rules-making person in general, is that it's thankless.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. Has anybody come to you and be like, thanks for doing this? Or are you just like taking lumps all the time?
No, but, I mean, you said it. I mean, look, when you walk through the paddock and people talk to you and you don't get hit by anything, no, but seriously, it is a thankless job. But you're not looking for accolades.
Sure.
But it's different. I will tell you, it's different. It's different from driving a race car. When you drive a race car, you sit out there in the autograph sessions and you sign your hero card. We didn't have those then because it took too long to take the hammer and the chisel and make another one and then hand it to somebody and then, and just the stonemasons. Yeah, anyway. But people, you have a fan base, and people like the job that you do. Sure. Both, your team, that's why you're hired, the fans, so on and so forth. When you do television, some people like the job you do, some people don't, but you'll hear, hey, love your work, I'll occasionally come past an 80 or 90-year-old person who watched me drive race cars back in the day.
Yeah, right. Off horses.
And yeah, exactly. Come on.
Yeah.
And they appreciate the job that you do. Not secretly, but without recognition, because nobody recognizes it because they don't need to recognize it. Brian Hughes, who's another one of our officials, is a great guy. He fills in for Peter.
Yep.
When Peter's gone. And Brian's laid back like Bo. In fact, Brian's one of those guys that, like a driver, like me, in this sport, you work multiple jobs.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
To make the living.
Uh-huh.
He works in IMSA race control. He works with us. Great guy. And he said his deal is when Peter's gone, he's like, I came into this weekend anonymous. I want to leave anonymous.
Right.
I don't want anyone to know who I am because I don't want to have to do anything.
Right.
And it's one of those deals where what we do really shouldn't ever be noticed.
Yeah.
GT racing around the world now with BOP has become so competitive. Yeah. There's going to be some push and shove, and there's going to be some touch. If we say you can't touch anybody, that'll never happen. It's great to have race car drivers in this position, in a steward's position, but the fact of the matter is, Dorsey's driven more recently than I, but neither one of us have raced at a high level for a long period of time. I remember what it's like. I remember the emotion. I remember the challenge. And race cars were different. We didn't have the driver age. You literally had to do that. But, I drove, and I think you saw the picture. I think you even commented on it. We did a Honda program up at the school a few weeks ago, and I'd never driven an NSX before.
Right, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So drove a street NSX for several laps around the racetrack. And the technology that exists and the braking capability and the aero, and certainly in these cars, you kind of need that. And I remember talking to Scott Sharp about this when he was driving the Acura prototype several years ago at Mosport. And I said, remember back when we used to have to, because Scott's old, he just doesn't look like it.
Right.
I don't know what he drinks or takes or whatever.
Patron, apparently.
Yeah, Patron, apparently. And I'm drinking Don Julio. Oh, my God, I need to change that.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
But maybe it is a tequila.
It might just
I don't
be
look
tequila.
Bad,
yeah.
but he looks better. But anyway,
change it up.
You wouldn't have time to go through a manual gearbox, on downshifts anymore. But I do remember the nuances of it, and what my job is as a steward is to not. I'll never be able to get inside his head, which would be a scary place to be. Would be inside Ryan Eversley's head.
Listen, I hang out with this guy.
Well, exactly.
Double trouble.
You're in that marked car out there driving down the road. Yeah. I can't judge his intention, but I can judge what happens on the racetrack. Sure, yeah. And that's probably good because eventually the technology is going to get to the point where I don't understand the technology anymore.
Sure.
But I can understand the physics of what's happening with the cars and how they interact on the racetrack. Exactly. So I remember, and this was still a long time ago, a guy named John Mullen, who's still a dear friend of mine, really kind of the guy that got me into the television side of things on a deep level. A producer, and we were doing the Atlantic stuff. And he was making a comment about the Atlantic field one year. And he said, good God, you need to get back in a car. Because you could win the championship again. I said, John, it's been like 15 years since I've driven an Atlantic car. I'd be last on the grid. He said, no, you wouldn't. You won a championship. I'm like, dude, this is what people don't understand. And you don't understand it half the time. You know it. But it's not a conscious thought.
He's looking at me right
He's
now.
looking at Ryan,
for
I'm looking at Ryan. Yeah.
He
Not
knows
Sean.
I'm a genius.
Sean doesn't get at this at all. Yeah. People look at an IndyCar grid or a World Challenge grid or an IMSA grid, in a particular class, and they'll go, what a wanker.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy's a second and a half off the pace.
Right.
I'll use Mid-Ohio since it's 50 miles up the road, 55 miles actually. Pretty
Settle
much from here.
down.
Yeah.
Settle down.
15 turns on that racetrack, a tenth of a second, and every corner is 1.5 seconds.
Right.
I would challenge anybody at home, pull out your iPhone, put it on stopwatch mode,
Exactly right.
lay it flat on the table, and hit start-stop as fast as you can.
Yeah.
As fast as you can. If you're really, really good, you may get below a tenth of a second.
Right. If
My
you're really
kids
good.
can do it in like 0.08
Yeah.
and occasionally a 0.06 if there's like some
Just
freak,
gets it right.
like
Right.
static electricity charge or something, I think, between the buttons. You can't see a tenth of a second.
No. Right.
It's 5 feet in a braking zone. It's a half a mile an hour rolled through another 100 foot of radius of a
Right.
corner or whatever. You can't see it.
Yeah.
Guys that you think are off the pace aren't off the pace. I mean, it could be, I'll take the horsepower deal out of it since everybody likes to bitch about that in BOP, but I mean, it could literally be 25 pounds of downforce of aero. It could, it's minuscule. I said this 3 years ago when I did my first World Challenge drivers meeting at CODA. I said and it's not bullshit, it's the truth. When I sit there in front of this room and I look out, it's some of the best race car drivers in the world.
Right.
Not in the state,
Right.
not in the country, not on the continent.
Right.
It's in the world.
Right.
These guys are world-class drivers, and it's like somewhat humbling to be there. And it's at the same point in time, they've entrusted you to judge them.
Right.
Because that's what you're doing. You're judging them.
Right.
You sit and you watch and you judge. And there's never a drive-through penalty that's given. There's never a penalty after the race that's given that isn't given with the idea that you're going to affect somebody's race. You're going to affect somebody's job.
Right. Right.
You're going to affect somebody's career. I mean, and it goes in that order, and it's true.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry, calling a ball or a strike.
Right. Exactly.
It's pretty straightforward. Well, and
You're probably not going to send somebody back to the minors. Maybe
Right,
the
right.
final strike.
Yeah, maybe that one.
Maybe that one. But
Obviously, the GT class has a ton of ego, and almost every guy there is probably being paid, at least in the GT Pro class.
Yeah.
So that's going to bring in a lot of
I
yelling
would
and
hope
bickering and everything.
GT Pro.
Well, sometimes
be-
not always.
Well, yeah.
But I wonder if
I'm not here to judge.
if the ego goes all the way down. Like when you get to the B-Spec class, are those guys like, what's the deal?
Are you serious?
Well, I assume it's that way.
It comes with
because,
Nomex.
Right.
I can't believe you would ask me that question.
I have a theory, and I know there are some female drivers in all these categories, but
Oh, Lord.
there are two things that a guy never wants to be told that he's bad at, and racing is the other one.
No.
Got it.
No.
So-
I always say in driver school, you've heard me.
Have I?
Did you steal this from me?
No, but we're both geniuses.
Heckman.
Let's face it. So
There are three things that every man inherently thinks he knows how to do.
okay,
Drive cars, shoot guns,
and something else.
yeah, and make love. But we're not good at any of them without instruction. But
Boom.
we believe we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So how far are we from where you live right now?
I am 5 minutes across
Nice.
the highway, which
Okay.
is no excuse as to why I'm late, but that's another thing altogether.
We were gonna mention
So
it.
where are you staying?
Where are we staying, Sean?
There's a hotel right across.
Yes, there
Oh, yeah.
is.
Nice
oh, yeah.
hotels look
Yeah,
like.
no, there's plenty of good. And Columbus seems like a really nice place, actually.
In fact, there are like 15 hotels within
Yeah.
like a mile
I
of
saw
where we're
all of
sitting
them.
right now.
Yeah, except I'm committed to being strange. I don't know if you knew this about me. And
Certain things we shouldn't talk about.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
I don't want to be a part of that.
so about an hour away, there is a hotel we discovered. It's like a bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
but it's all corgi themed. Literally, the entire hotel has like corgi pictures and like a corgi carousel and a corgi gift shop. I'm not making this up. This is
can't be a
100% true.
podcast. This needs to be video. People need to see the look on my face.
100% true. And I was like, I have to go there. And so we are driving an hour out of our way.
Yeah, out of our way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have stayed in Columbus, which is nice and seems affordable. But instead, we're going out of our way to arrive at midnight or whenever the hell we get out of here, to be surrounded in a
Where?
corgi-themed hotel. I can't remember the name of the city. I'd have to look it up.
In out of city.
No.
There's no way in hell it's a city.
The small, quaint village that our little bed and breakfast is in, but it's all corgis. I'm not making this up.
Did you cross-reference that bed and breakfast with America's most haunted?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't, but it would be okay.
They're on Yelp, right?
They got to be. I have to look up
we'll
the place.
have to look 'em up.
Yeah.
What do you mean they've got to be? You didn't
Yeah,
check?
I was driving.
I don't.
so-
I saw corgis. I was sold.
He actually
you
is like,
serious?
he's like, hey, is it cool if we?
I actually like.
Oh,
So
yeah, I'm all
explain
in.
the corgi thing.
I love corgis.
The end.
Done. I have a corgi. I love corgis. They're the coolest dogs in the world, and therefore there's a corgi-themed hotel. I'm good. That's it. There's no more rationale to this.
Yeah.
Which direction is this?
It's actually backtracking.
You want to stay here?
We already have. I paid
No.
for this hotel
No.
already. Okay.
I wasn't talking to you, Sean. I was talking to Ryan.
And now that
You're going to go west to come back to go to Pennsylvania. Ryan may want to stay here.
the look in his eyes was like complete sincerity, like, do you need help? Like,
Yeah.
blink once if he's.
I'm looking for the mark on the palm of his hand. I'm like,
Can I come teach at the school tomorrow? Yeah.
we can have a guest instructor. Everyone, look, here's Ryan. It's like, I mean,
Yellow Springs, Ohio. I got to do it.
are you concerned at all about the corgi people in this corgi bed and breakfast?
Oh yeah, that's part of the experience.
Right.
More importantly, Ryan?
People today, especially like sort of the younger crowd, they know you as a guy on TV. They know that maybe you used to drive, but we're not really like a biographical podcast. But I do think actually it's worth getting into where you came from.
Did you just say younger crowd?
Younger crowd. I'm saying you're old as shit. What are you not understanding about this?
No, I understood completely what you just said.
But like because you're now a guy on TV and a driver's official or driver steward, I mean it's worth getting into some of your background here. So you mentioned Bo Barfield. You're a Texas native.
Yep.
You grew up. Where did you grow up?
Houston.
Houston. All right. And was racing a thing growing up?
No.
No. How'd that happen? Talk about that.
What?
Talk about that. Go.
Where did racing enter the mindset of Brian Till?
You know, it's funny. I mean, I am the most, I shouldn't say most. I look at it and I go, there's no way in hell I should be
On this
I
podcast.
won't say where I am,
Right.
but my father was an attorney, and he was a spectacular attorney, and it's. I mean, he was a guy he was an only child.
Okay.
Was raised in a town called Appleby, Texas.
Is that where Applebee's came from?
I'm not sure I don't think so.
Okay.
But it literally, I think at one point in time said Appleby on one side of the sign and Appleby on the other side of the
That's
sign.
awesome.
He lived in a 2-room house, not a 2-bedroom house.
A two-room house.
2-room house.
Right.
And moved to Houston when he was 12 years old. His dad drove a truck for Shell, delivering gasoline to gas stations. And, he was just this kid back in the 40s,
Right.
and got out of high school. You went to the Navy and was on a battleship. And just about the time he got out, Pearl Harbor happened.
Oh, wow.
So he got out kind of just in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was one of those deals where he used his GI Bill to pay for college, went to the University of Houston, and graduated from there, read electric meters for Houston Lighting and Power, paid for law school, was one of the highest grades on the bar exam at his sitting in the state of Texas, and went to work for a firm that was then known as, see if I can remember this from being a kid, Fulbright, Crooker, Freeman, Bates, and Jaworski.
I'm impressed.
Which became eventually Fulbright and Jaworski. Leon Jaworski was the Watergate special prosecutor.
Oh, no kidding.
So, yeah. See, I'm the only person sitting at this table
That was
who
alive.
Actually alive.
Yeah,
when all that happened.
By a little bit.
But, he was a special guy. And he was small town boy, made good kind of thing. Had 4 kids.
Yeah.
My mom was small town girl. She was an identical twin. And my dad actually asked her sister out first.
Nice.
She couldn't go because she had a boyfriend, so he ended up with my mom. And so he ended up with my mom, kind of thing. And got an older brother and 2 sisters, one older and one younger. And nobody knew anything about racing.
Okay.
Anything. And when I was in high school, met a guy by the name of Bobby Martin. And I won't go too far into that. He's still a dear friend of mine, but he's worked for the government from time to time, and I probably shouldn't get too far into that stuff. But
Copy.
And Bobby's dad raced in the SCCA. So when we were, I think, juniors and seniors in high school, in the summer we would go to SCCA races, and certainly when we were freshmen in college, we would go to SCCA races.
So this is like late 70s. Yeah. Okay.
And late 70s, early 80s.
Excuse me.
What the Sean?
I'm an asshole. This is not new.
So
Quit being a dick to the guests.
it's the way I'm going to be treated. So we would go to the races, and I just thought, when I graduate, I there was a guy I particularly remember at Texas World Speedway. He had this beautiful black Crosley Formula Ford. It had gold leaf numbers on it. It was 31. I can still remember the number on the car. It looked like a John Player Special Lotus, And I'm like, when I graduate from college and I'm making $150,000 a year right out of school.
As you do, right.
Yeah, as you
Day
as you
two.
do. Yeah,
all
day
know.
two, yeah. I'm going to buy one of those.
Right.
And then my sophomore year, it was like, when I'm making $75,000 a year. My junior year, it was like, when I'm making $35,000 a year. And by the time I graduated, I'm like, if I can just buy a ticket to a race.
Sure. You're good to go.
And
What'd you go to school for?
well, I the first 2.5 years I was a biology major. I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
Because it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Because if you look at my Facebook page, you'll see me killing animals because I'm a big hunter.
Yeah, we
love
talked
to
about
hunt.
this. Right.
Grew up hunting because my dad did, and still love to hunt.
Yeah.
But I have this love for animals.
But you want to save them after you shoot
I'm a huge dog fan. No, I want to eat them after I shoot them. If I shoot it, I want to eat it.
Yeah, you're
If
one of
I
those
don't,
guys
yeah.
that you
Yeah.
eat what you
Yeah.
kill.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I've seen
So,
that.
but I became this fan of motorsports, and when I was in college, I would watch the Formula One races and always saw how these Formula One drivers started as go-kart racers.
Right.
And I can remember somebody back when I was in junior high who raced go-karts, and I didn't really understand what it meant and this, that, and the other. So I know this is a convoluted story, but I couldn't decide when I realized that I wasn't going to get into veterinarian school. It was about 2.5 years into college because you had to have a better grade, a better GPA then, and I think still now, to get into vet school than medical school.
No kidding.
Oh, wow.
Which tells me 2 things. If you ever get sick, go see your vet.
Yeah.
Sure.
Your doctor, because they're smarter, obviously.
Sean does that now.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, corgi guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm there anyway.
You specialize in corgis? I'm in.
I'm in.
And 2, it's like one of those things that if you can't be a doctor or a veterinarian, you're going to end up being a high school biology teacher, and that's probably not where you want to be. So anyway, I didn't mean to offend anybody who's a high school biology teacher with that remark, but
They know.
they know. So I was like, what do I want to do? And I was always also interested in airplanes. So it was like I started taking flying lessons. My dad's like, just try to find some other stuff that you might be interested in.
Right.
So I started taking flying lessons. So I remember I didn't fly much on Saturdays. You usually flew during the week, but I went out and I had a flight lesson on a Saturday. And the Heart of Texas Go-Kart Club
Okay.
was right there next to the airport in Waco. I went to Baylor.
Okay.
So I was leaving the airport, and there were a bunch of trailers and stuff at the go-kart track. So I pulled in. I was like, yeah, all these Formula One drivers. You know, they were go-kart races.
That's what they do. Sure.
So I climbed up in the grandstands, and I hear this, and this little cart comes out, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Right.
And then another one comes out, and they're up on like 2 wheels going around the course.
Flying.
This is insane. This is crazy. You could die doing this. Who would do this stuff? I got to have one.
Right. Absolutely.
So little did I know those were junior carts. You know, at the time. So, but I mean, I got a job that my parents didn't know I had,
Okay, what was it?
taking pictures at fraternity and sorority parties.
Oh,
I was the party pick guy.
Yeah, all right.
I was the guy that went around and took pictures of people
Yeah.
at their at the frat parties and stuff.
Not looking their best.
And made enough money to buy a go-kart. I drove a Toyota Celica. My dad was very strict about he wouldn't buy you a car when you turned 16 years old or whatever. You had to finish 60 years of college, or 60 hours of college, not 60 years. My degree almost took that long. You had to finish 60 hours of college, then he would buy you a car. So I had a Toyota Celica hatchback.
Right.
And it just so happened that if you folded down the seats, the rear seats, and a Celica hatchback,
You could fit a go-kart.
you could put a go-kart in the back.
Nice.
Right.
And you could put a little Sears toolbox between the front wheel and the
Nice.
back wheel
Now,
on
did you
one
like have
side.
to take the cart apart?
Nope.
To fit it? Oh wow!
You could pick up the front porch of the cart, set it up on the hatchback, pick up the rear bumper, and roll the thing in.
Nice.
And the toolbox would fit along the left side between the left rear and the left front.
Yep.
And the extra wheels would sit up, like on the floorboard
in the
of the
seat.
cart.
Yeah, yeah.
And the gas can would sit in the seat.
Yeah.
And I drove all around the state of Texas racing my go-kart. My
Nice.
parents never knew.
Back when you could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, back when you could do that.
Yeah.
And I made enough money taking pictures at fraternity parties and sorority parties to do that. My parents didn't know, and that's
Right.
how I got my start. And it was like, I quit flying because I was like, okay, this racing
what
thing
you're
is
doing.
what I
Yeah.
want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, I mean, it was obvious. If all you did was run well, win races, you were going to
You're going to be in
Penske.
F1.
right over there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because all it took was just
Yeah, you just do good.
being
Yeah.
successful.
Win a regional race, Ron Dennis calls.
You're there.
Yeah. I got you.
My parents eventually found out. It was funny. When I stopped my biology major, my grades fell apart because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm one of those people that if you said, hey, let's go west, I'd say, okay. Are we going to go to Washington?
Right.
Or are we going to go to Southern California? Because if you tell me, I'll map it out and we'll be
Get
great.
it right. Yeah.
But you can't just tell me west because that's just too vague.
Yeah,
I need a focal point.
Right.
And so I got lost. I didn't know what I was going to be. I knew I was going to be a vet for all these years, and now I wasn't going to be. And so what was it going to be? And my grades went to hell in a handbasket. When I discovered racing, I kind of really turned my school around and changed to a business major because I knew I needed to understand business because racing was a business. And kind of focused on all of that. Long story short, graduated from college. My best friend's dad, who was racing in the SCCA, said, if your parents will send you to a 3-day racing school, I'll let you use my car in a SCCA school, and you can run the regional race the next day.
Right. Be qualified. Sure.
And it just one thing led to another, and it was like it was off and running. And the bad thing is, started doing the SCCA stuff, and started running SCCA races. I graduated in December of 1984. Started running SCCA races in '85, and the gentleman who owned the car let me do a school, and I did well, and I won the first regional race that I entered. And he goes, "Hey, you're doing pretty good. I'll tell you what. We'll go to the races, and you run the regional on Saturday. I'll run the national on Sunday." So I was winning regional races, and he was struggling in national races, and then it wasn't as much fun anymore. So he decided he was going to get out. We were running a sports Renault at the time.
Spec Racer Ford for people that might
for
know.
for young kids.
Or people in their 30s, either way.
Don't make me say bad things to you.
Listen, it's been a Spec Racer Ford my whole life.
Has it really?
Yeah. And I'm 33.
Really?
Yeah. 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 That's why I clarified it.
So we figured out a way to buy the car. Bought the car, ran for a couple of months, qualified to go to the runoffs. My dad said, look, you're going to have a chance to go to the runoffs. It's the national championships. You may not ever get to go again in your life because you may not ever be in a spot where you don't owe something to somebody.
Yeah,
you
have
know?
the time and the whole thing.
So if you'll continue to live at home, do the things that I want you to do. The job market in Houston at the time was. He said, that's fine, but when you come home from Atlanta, you're going to stick the car in the barn out at the farm, and you're not going to touch it until you have a job.
Sure.
I said, fine.
Fair.
2 weeks before the runoffs, he had a heart attack and died.
Oh.
He was on a hunting trip and sat down and said, I don't feel good, and had a shotgun in his hand, and
That was that.
Wow.
that was that. So, he was gone, and my mom said he would have wanted you to go to the runoffs,
Yeah.
and I went and did okay, and I still remember Patsy Henry was one of the stewards at SCCA at the time, and I had a blowout on the right rear of my sports Renault with like 2 laps to go at the runoffs. And I limped around for 2 laps, and it was cutting the bodywork in half and all of that because I was hell-bent determined I was going to
Finish this thing,
take the checker flag at
Absolutely.
the runoffs. And afterwards, I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be a professional race car driver because I think I'm pretty
You're
good
there,
at this.
right.
We ever heard this story before?
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, one thing led to another. I met some shady people who were going to find me money. Does this sound familiar?
Oh, we'll get into this.
Sean knows all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So Kevin Buckler shows up.
what?
Never
Found a
heard
guy
that.
who was going to find me all kinds of money. Got hooked up with Skip Barber. And that was going to be the year that they started the Pro Series. I'm the answer to a very bizarre trivia question. Who won the very first ever Barber Pro Series race? It was me.
Dorsey Schrader.
In June.
That's awesome.
In June of 1986 at the Meadowlands. And that just cemented the fact in my mind that
I should be doing this.
I should be doing this.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. And I always tell young people, and you don't want to take their dream away, but I'm the exception to the rule. Not because I'm an exception, but just because I was in the right place at the right
That's
time.
a lot of it.
I there are so many people that have the talent, that have the ability, that will never get the opportunity.
Right.
And I was doing my last Skip Barber school. I was done. I was getting married in '89, wasn't racing anymore. Said, I gave my time, done.
Yeah.
Still
And
living
you're,
in Texas
I mean,
at the time?
Yep.
Yep.
you're also 29 at this point, so you're
Yeah.
seeing your 30s coming
Yeah.
and going, I need to be an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So met this guy, great guy. Met him at Road America. He was doing a 7-day Skip Barber school.
Huh.
And I used to harp on my guys, quote, my guys, instructors at Skip Barber,
I know
going,
this is
if
going.
I find you humping on anybody's leg,
Right.
looking for money, you're fired.
Right.
That's not what we do. We're here to teach.
Right.
We're not here to look for rides. Of course, lots of people found rides at Skip Barber or Jim Russell
Everywhere.
or
Panos,
Bondurant
yep,
or
you name
you
it.
name it. So this gentleman, who I'll name in a minute, did this 7-day program and did a 3-day school. And we'd go to lunch in town every day
Yeah.
into Elkhart, which at the time was a very different town than it is now. And I can remember him laughing, going, yeah, you don't want to get married next year. You don't want to go racing. And when he left, he's like, let me know what you're doing next year. Tell me if you've ever heard this before, Ryan. Let me know what you're doing next year. I'd love to get involved
Yeah.
in racing. I'd love, and
Yeah.
if you had
Yeah.
if you had $1 for every time you heard that, you'd be Roger Penske. If you
Exactly
had a
right.
dime, you'd be Chip Ganassi.
Exactly.
I mean, it was
yeah.
be like,
yeah.
it's like
100%.
so. It's one of those deals where I was like, yeah, thanks. By the time I got from Milwaukee to Houston on Monday, I had a phone call, and he's like, He was on the answering machine. Want to bring you up to Columbus. Want to talk to you about racing. Guy's name is Bob Liebert, who is one of the greatest guys in the world. His family, if you drive down 270, you'll see a building that says Liebert Corporation. His father, Ralph Liebert, was just an incredibly intelligent guy way before his time. Environmental control systems for mainframe computer rooms and stuff like that back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So got into refrigeration and air conditioning units and so on and so forth. And Bob just had this interest in motorsports. And he has a brother and a sister, and some of them shared part of that interest, but not in the direction that Bob went. And he was the guy. And so I flew up to Columbus and met with him, and he said, this is kind of the vision that I have for next year. And I said, thank you, but no thank you. Because, as you said, Sean, I was 29 years old, and it was time to grow up and so on and so forth. It was not, I'm going to give another year to this. No, because if I give another year, then I'm going to give another year.
Yeah, next thing
And
you
then
know, you're 40.
it was like,
Yeah.
you're going to have to lay something out in front of me, not because I'm driving a hard bargain because I think I'm worth it, but because my life
Makes sense. Yeah.
kind of going away, and you got to get it done.
Yeah.
Fish or cut bait.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that.
So thank you very much, and I went back to Houston. And he called a week later and said, no, come back. I want to talk to you again. So we laid out a 2-year plan, and my fiance at the time was like, you need to do this.
See where it goes. Yeah.
You'll never get another chance in your life, and you don't want to wonder if, you know. And so I came back. We did the barbershop thing in '89, and it didn't go particularly well for a number of reasons, one of which was me. But it's funny. I'd never driven a car on slicks.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it was the first year that barbershop cars had slicks, and it was kind of an amalgamation of, wasn't the best car in the world.
Right.
It was a 2-frame chassis designed for shaved street radials, and now it had slicks on it. And But he had laid out a 2-year plan, and we went with that 2-year plan. And so I think I finished 5th in the barbershop series that year. I think Buell won it, and I think it was a long time ago. You weren't born. You're pissing me off. And then we went to the Atlantic deal in '90 and won that championship.
Right.
And it was like, okay, so I can drive a race car.
Yeah.
And, you know, now your confidence back, and that kind of spurred on further stuff. But I was never a guy that was like, I'm going to be a race car driver.
Right.
I didn't grow up that way. I didn't think that way until I was 2.5 or 3 years
some, like,
into college.
9-year-old karting phenom.
No,
or anything.
and so I look at
And you didn't buy a ride.
No, I look at the success that I had, and I was in it for a really short period of time.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not anything that I ever craved.
Right.
It's not anything that I ever was like, I'm going to do this when I grow up, when I grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us ever grow up that are in racing, but, you know, so I look at it, and I'm like incredibly fortunate to do the things that I've done. I have acquaintances of mine who are incredibly bitter about the places that they never got.
Sure.
And I look at it and go, how could any of us be bitter? The only thing that you could be bitter about is that you didn't make the decision, whether that's me or you or you, to say, I need to stop this.
Right.
I need to stop this, and I need to go do something else, because you knew all the risks.
Right. That's the deal.
You knew all the pitfalls.
Right.
You knew it wasn't fair, not to sound like, you know,
Right. No,
that
it's true.
it's not,
Yeah.
you know, the whining kid or whatever, but you knew all that. And yet you took the next step.
Kept going.
And the next step.
Yeah.
And the next step. And if you elected to do all that, knowing what you know,
Yep.
you got no one to blame. So I look at it and I go, I'm stunningly fortunate to have done all that. It's funny. That's my Indy ring.
Okay.
And people go, I can remember, I wear it whenever I'm not too fat. I have to weigh under a certain amount in order to put it on my finger, you know. But I wear it, and all it says is that I started the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah. But how many people have that?
Well, I think there's 700 and something people in the world now that have. But I look at guys, you know, I'm very cognizant of it. When I did the IndyCar stuff, you know, for NBCSN, when I talk to Elio Castroneves or any of the guys who, Scott Pruitt.
Yeah.
And they'll go, oh. And I'm like, you don't understand. To me, that's the Borg Warner Trophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you made
Absolutely.
it.
I remember standing in a go-kart shop in Waco, Texas in 1982, 1983, and there's a IndyCar show car in there, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's an IndyCar. Oh, my God. All I've ever wanted to drive was a Formula Ford.
Right.
That's an IndyCar. And I said to the guy, do you think I could sit in it? He's like, no. This is in a garage in the back, and it's like,
Never
he's
will.
like,
Right.
no.
Still no.
And I was like, I'll never sit
Yeah.
in an IndyCar.
Right.
I didn't sit in an IndyCar. I drove in the Indianapolis 500, and I actually finished.
Yeah.
I didn't. I walked away. I did one of them. I qualified. I started. I finished, and I finished 12th. And it's like, oh my God, I did that.
Yeah.
I never planned to do that.
Right.
But I somehow, some way, with a lot of lady luck and a lot of grace by the big guy upstairs, I managed to pull that off.
Right.
So why is that on my finger? It's a reminder to me that I can do great things.
Yeah.
Right. I shouldn't say great things, but I can
Hey,
achieve things
don't
that
have
are I can achieve things that are beyond what I thought I could.
Sure. So then you have a several-year run in IndyCar, never quite with the top teams, but you were making it work, as far as I saw.
We did great.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, like 20 career starts or something like that.
that many?
Yeah, I think that's what it. Yeah.
I'll go with it.
Yeah. Like how many different teams? Because you drove like a Penske at one point, not for Penske, but drove the Penske. You drove Lola, I think, and just.
What was that?
I'm eating a nacho, for God's
Well,
sake.
we'll give you a minute. Let's let you eat.
Those look like good nachos.
Yeah.
You want one?
Yeah.
Beef or chicken?
What do you have more of?
It doesn't matter.
I'm gonna take the beef here.
Yep.
Yep. Can you pop a couple
Jalapenos?
of jalapenos on there for me? Yeah, Sean, I'm crashing with Till tonight.
I'm good.
He's not going to the quirky place. So, I mean, I was fortunate from the standpoint of, like, the first year I raced in IndyCar, that was in 92, I drove the 91 True Sports chassis
Oh, wow.
with the Judd
Yep.
engine. The mechanical grip of the True Sports chassis was phenomenal. I mean, it was really, really good. The Judd part of the equation was another thing altogether. It was like Chevy and Ford were in these engine wars.
Right.
I mean, at the time, you ran a qualifying engine. You practiced with one
wow.
engine in.
Yeah.
You put another engine in for qualifying. Then you pulled it, put another engine in for the race.
Race, right.
And this is what was funny when we were talking about a second and a half. Our goal was to be a second and a half off the pace.
Right.
If you
That
could
was a
be
good day.
within a second and a half in qualifying, you started somewhere between 13th and 15th.
Right.
And that's where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
But places like Toronto, I think, well, at Long Beach, I think we qualified in my first IndyCar race, I don't know, 15th, 16th, something like that.
Sure. But you were within the target. Yeah.
Besides Scott Goodyear,
Okay.
who had
Oh,
a
yeah.
Lola Judd. And he was
I see
all
something consistent.
pissed off, and I was incredibly happy that I was in an IndyCar race, and he was pissed off that he was in an IndyCar race. And I'm not sure he was pissed off that he was where he was or that he was side by side with me. I'm not really
Right.
sure which was
Well,
the
you
more
just- your
insulting
hair.
thing. Yeah, it was
Your
my
hair's
hair.
too
That's
good.
what it
He's
was.
pissed.
And in '93, I ran the second half of the season with Turley because Cheever started with Turley, and then they had a disagreement and had this thing about following Eddie Cheever, but that's another story altogether. He left, and I finished the second half of the season with Turley, and the difference between a Penske chassis and the True Sports chassis, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was stunning. I mean, and you'll laugh at this, Ryan. I know you will, but at the time, he's going to roll his eyes. You know, you'd take your steering wheel off and you'd set it up, you know, on the tub or whatever, and it would have a coily cord. It
what?
went up to
Yeah.
A what?
Yeah.
a coily cord.
I know.
Fuck you. You know, that went up to it. And the Penske, you just took the wheel off and did whatever you want to with it because all the connections were through the steering
Yeah,
column.
right.
And that was like unheard of. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, my God,
Yeah.
how does
Yeah.
this work? It's black magic. Oh, my God. The Lola that I drove was with Dale.
Yep.
And, we were supposed to do 6 races that year, and I ended up doing 2. For one reason or another.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of those was Indy, and it was great for Dale. He hadn't had a car that had qualified for a while. We qualified, and we ran, and we finished, and that was good for him. I certainly don't think I was the impetus that got him on his roll to where he is now, but it didn't hurt, So, but that was my IndyCar stuff.
We had lunch yesterday in Chicago with Craig Hampson.
Dale Coyne engineer.
Absolutely. And his question for you.
Oh, God.
was from when you drove for Dale Coyne Racing in '94 to how Dale Coyne Racing is now, what do you see as any similarities, and what do you see that's changed the most?
That's a hard question to answer because I'm not still connected to the IndyCar side of things. So what I see is very much from the other side of the fence looking in. But what I can say is that obviously you don't win or run up front in the IndyCar series without, pardon the pun, firing on all cylinders, which they obviously are doing. Go back to Dale running a stock block engine and just trying to be a part of the IndyCar show because there was franchise money involved and, hey, you could make a living doing this. To becoming a legitimate contender and having guys like Bourdais drive for you. So, although Sebastian and I are very similar from a talent standpoint.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You were going to say that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. These jalapenos.
Yeah, these jalapenos are very hot. No, you look at it, and what Dale has been able to do is that slow burn, that build of gradually getting better and better and better, and whether it's the engineering staff, the mechanic staff, the drivers. You look at the Justin Wilsons of the world and the guys that he's had in the seat, and it's like he's built a program that can compete. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
That's the difference between having a AAA baseball team that wins half their games or being able to compete on a major league level.
Right. So tomorrow, for some reason,
I don't know.
You're going to go see Mario.
Yeah. Oh, well, way to steal my thunder there, Till. That's all I got, man. Yeah, we're going to have a dinner with none other than Mario Andretti, Marco's grandfather.
Yep.
As he's known.
For the kids who don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
If you could pass along a question.
Oh, he wrote it down. He's pulling out his phone. Or he's already bored and checking
Or he's
his
like,
email.
who?
Yep. Did you write it down? Is this how prepared and professional
No,
you
go
are?
ahead.
All right.
I'm listening. I got kids. I can multitask.
Very good.
We cannot. Any question that Brian Till would have for Mario Andretti?
I would ask Mario. He and I get, at least I do. I don't know if people ask him this a lot, if he's Brian Till. But obviously,
Oh, we're like
Okay. I'm going to need you to
We're
text me that
quaff for quaff.
perfect picture of Mario Andretti, but with your name below.
so here's the backside of that story.
Okay.
So at the Texas IndyCar race 2 years ago, Kelly Stavis and I are sitting in the restaurant of a hotel.
Okay.
And this woman is sitting like 2 booths down. And she gets up and walks to the restroom, I think. And as she walks by, she's kind of eyeing me. And I'm like,
Yeah. Still got it.
yeah, I still got it.
Yeah, hair's looking good.
She comes back, and as she walks back by, she's
Right.
kind of looking over her shoulder. And she does this like a couple of times. And it's starting to get freaky.
Right.
And finally, she stops and she says, "Excuse me, I just have to ask you, are you Mario Andretti?" That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. And I just kind of laughed. No, ma'am, no, I'm not. And so I told the story the next day when we were over in the TV compound, and so they,
they did.
cameramen being what cameramen are and producers being what producers are.
How dare you.
They managed to find that picture of Mario
And do it.
down in the pit lane and font it with my name. And I'm like,
So just explain. We're looking at a photo
Yeah, we're looking
on
at
your
it.
phone of Mario Andretti with the Brian Till
with the
Chiron
Brian Till
lower
font
third.
underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I'm honored. I don't know if he is.
Sure.
When people
I'm
ask
sure he
him.
will be.
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, I think about, because I'm old enough to kind of look back and old enough to look at, I don't want to call you a young guy.
Please do.
No,
I
Ryan.
need this.
No,
I
Ryan.
need
I
this.
can't. I
still
can't
need
do
this.
it.
It's not.
Sean's just laughing and continuing to eat bean dip. Sean,
very
would you like a
engaging.
nacho too?
No, I got my
Okay.
bean dip, man.
How
I'm
dare
very-
you turn down a nacho?
But I think about it, and I would think that you would kind of wonder about this too. I look back to, I mean, obviously you and I were talking about this, Ryan. Cars have changed so much. So much. I mean, back in the day, the guys who won were not only bold and brave, but they were empathetic to the car. They understood. I mean, Gurney was exceptional at understanding what the pace needed to be to get to the end. Be damned what the competition was doing. In order for the car that he was driving to get to the end, it had to be driven this way. So I look at it now and I go, cars aren't that way anymore. You can go hammer on them. So I guess, does he think that the mind and the soul of the race car driver has changed as the equipment has changed?
Okay, so Indy 500 94. Is that the last year of IndyCar? Did you do any starts after that? I know.
Yeah.
I know you ended up doing Trans-Am in '95.
I did start after that.
Did you?
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
So where did I grow up? Come on, Ryan, it's a test.
Houston, Texas.
Yep.
Yep.
Was there any kind of reasonable IndyCar driver who ever came from Houston, Texas?
Just the greatest of, well, maybe arguably the greatest of all time.
One of the two.
So, how old is Larry?
He's probably your age, right?
He's a little younger.
Okay.
We went to the same high school.
Ah.
And from the time many years after high school, when I realized I wanted to be a professional race car driver, I used to give me shit all the time. I want to drive. I want to drive. I want to drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Tell your dad.
yeah, tell your dad. Come on. So in 1995, when I was doing the Trans-Am stuff, I get this call from Larry. Hey, what are you doing next weekend? I'm like, what do you want me to do? It's like, well, remember I said I had this habit of following Eddie Cheever?
Thank you.
Here we go. At the time, he was driving for Foyt. Yep.
Through the first half of 95. It's like, well, Eddie's gone, and we need a driver for Vancouver. I'm like, I'm in.
Done.
Of course.
So show up in Vancouver, played golf with the guys, had a great time. And I'm like,
Ready for
this
this.
is my entree back.
Yeah. You're going to make it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is how old I am. I'd never driven the sequential shift IndyCar
Right.
because the last one I drove in 93 was a 92 model car.
Yep. With the
And
Penske
then
with it, yeah.
the Lola, even at the Speedway, was still,
Yeah.
a shift, a
Regular manual
regular
shift.
H pattern.
Yeah.
It was a finicky box, I guess. And they were like, yeah, I talked to other drivers. I'm like, yeah, you don't need to use the clutch, just left foot brake and
And this was a 95
Click
Lola,
down.
which was, I think it was their first sequential as well.
Yes.
So it was still kind of,
Yes.
yeah. So.
it was also the first year they had a third spring,
Ah, right. Which was problematic.
which was problematic. So, do you see the problematic side of this
Don't know
adding
where you're
up,
going with
Sean?
this.
Yeah, I don't know where
You
you're
were
going with this
expected
at
to
all.
win. Yeah.
So text tells me half second over everybody.
So here's the deal. AJ wasn't there. AJ was at the ranch. And we went out and I couldn't make the transmission work. I'm like, how do I blip on a downshift without a clutch?
Right.
You know, I mean, I've never driven one of these, and so I'm like, how can I blip? How can I match? Well, if you just left foot brake and then just push it forward, and I'm like, I can't get this to work. And as you said, Sean, it was problematic, and he was trying to get it to work, and I struggled with that. And then I literally had to go out on Friday to a sporting goods store and buy pads for my elbows and my knees.
Right.
Yeah,
the
it's
abuse.
knocking into the
Getting
thing.
knocked
Yeah.
around.
Because they couldn't figure out how to make the third spring work.
Oh,
brutal.
Jesus. So it's just completely
So they,
off.
so they took it off
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Solid.
Yep.
and went to the spring rates that they had from the year before. But obviously the wheel rates were different.
Yeah, everything.
And this is, I mean, no offense to anybody on the team. You look at AJ's team now, and much like Dale's that we were talking about,
Yeah.
and the evolution that's transpired. And there was a valley between when AJ ran it and the technology that was there, and Larry taking over and the technology as it's grown. And so there was this valley in between, and I happened to be part of the valley, I guess. But it was brutal. The car was off the ground, literally off the ground in places around the backside of the racetrack.
Yeah.
We've got to do something big to make a change to see if that has an effect. We did that, and I'm like, all right, now let's do something else big. We can't do that without getting AJ's approval and all that. And that made sense. AJ wanted to know what was going on with the car, and it's like,
And this is 95, so it's not like he's a big email guy anyway, so it's literally like a phone
Yeah,
call
it's
over
a
to
phone
his,
call. If you
hoping
could-
he's home. Yeah.
yeah, if you couldn't get him, he was out on the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Probably
Moving trees.
moving trees and digging another pond.
Right.
You know, so I had the awesome honor of driving the black number 14 with the Copenhagen on the side of it.
Yeah.
But it was a lethal
Yeah.
kind of deal. And, I mean, I've got some funny pictures of me in the suit and sitting there in the hotel room in a hat, in a Copenhagen hat, with a cigar in my mouth, with kind of this blank stare on my face like, oh, my God, what have I got myself into?
Right.
Because there was nothing that I would have wanted to do more in my life than get A.J. Foyt to say, wow,
Nice job.
Yeah.
nice job.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't going to happen in Vancouver of 1995.
Right.
But what picture is on my profile
Right.
on my Facebook page? Because that's the proudest moment of my life. The only thing that pisses me off, and I'll never get it back, because I'm sure it went in for like $2 and AJ's big, auction that he had a year or two ago or whatever. There is a suit somewhere, a black Simpson fire suit with Copenhagen across the chest that says Brian Till on the belt. And it's like, I won't want to say anything.
You would love to have that again.
I'd love to have that suit. It would be, I've got my Indy 500 suit that I wore. I've got both of the suits that I wore throughout the month. I've got my helmets that I wore throughout the month. But I think the coolest memento that I would have from my career would have been that suit, which is why that picture is my Facebook page. I am a Texan, and I actually once drove the number 14.
That's pretty cool.
It didn't turn out well, but I drove it.
So if anyone listening has that suit, info@dinnerwithracers.com.
Let me know.
And we'll see how big our fan base really is.
Okay, so you end up doing Trans-Am full-time 95. Had you had any, conversations? Did you even know Dorsey Schrader at that point? Was there any sort of relationship?
Good God. Did I know Dorsey Schrader in 1995? I knew Dorsey in 1987.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And we both lived to 1995. Which is
Right.
Fair enough.
So I met Dorsey at the end. So it was the end of 86. Yeah, the end of 86. I think. I got to do my math. Yeah. So when I finished the first year of the Barbershop Pro Series stuff, they were like, hey, you should be an instructor. Let's get barber. So I'm like, okay. Now I have a job in racing.
Right.
A
You've made it.
glamorous job
Yeah.
in racing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
Yeah. You've fallen for that one
Hell
before
yeah.
too, haven't you?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So I get sent to Sebring to go to school to be an instructor. And who do I get paired with? Then Dorsey
one.
Schrader,
You gotta be Schrader.
whom I had met, but I couldn't really remember meeting him in 1985 at the runoffs because he was running Sports Renault.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Spec racer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Flip you off, Ryan
I'm
Eversley.
just helping the kids.
Just helping the kids. And so we spent a week in one of those little bungalows out back of the Kenilworth, which is now, of course, closed down and condemned,
Right.
you know, there in Sebring. And from then on, I knew Dorsey.
Right.
You know, I mean, once you know Dorsey, you know Dorsey.
know
Right.
Dorsey. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean,
right.
it's like, and I've been friends with him ever since. And so when we raced together in '95, I certainly knew him, and
Yeah.
we were friends.
Right.
And oddly, that is one of those friendships that has literally, I mean, it's gone on now for
Did you have
31
any
years.
inclination when you first met this guy who was probably not wearing a shirt and probably had a sweet
No.
mustache?
Look, Ryan.
Here we go.
So we were in one of these bungalows behind the Kenilworth. Right. And I'm like, oh, Dorsey Schrader, I know him. You know, so we would go. Terry Earwood was our,
Okay.
who, God bless him, one of the funniest people in the world.
He's been encouraged to be on this.
And- oh, you got to have Terry on.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Your fans have to speak Southern, though.
They'll figure it
true,
out.
it's fine. Yeah.
They might become witnesses.
Yeah.
That dog won't hunt. But anyway, so Terry was our instructor, and it was just Dorsey and I. And we would go out there and spend 8 hours a day going through all the drills from all the programs and getting the curriculum and having to stand up and repeat it and do all this other kind of stuff. And every day, there was, and I think it's still there. You know, if you go from the racetrack back to where the Kenilworth is, because I think it's probably still standing. It probably hadn't been like blown up
no,
yet.
Yeah, right.
Just before you get to the railroad tracks, which is just before the high school.
Yep.
I don't want to comment on how I know where that is, but anyway, just before you get to the railroad tracks,
This got better.
on driver's left, yeah. Oh, the things we could talk about. Was a little carryout place.
Yeah.
And we would stop and get a 12-pack of beer.
Yeah.
And we would go back to the Kenilworth. We would sit there, and we would work on the 12-pack of beer. Then we would go out. Then we would come back, and we would leave in the morning, and there wasn't a 12-pack of beer anymore. And we would be headed out to the racetrack going, oh, my God, we got to get in this. I mean, it's even though it's January or February
Still
or whatever
hot.
in Sebring, it's
Yeah.
still hotter than hell.
Yep.
And when you're in a skid car going around in
yeah.
circles,
Yep.
it doesn't really matter whether it's hot, you know, right? So we would go 9 o'clock in the morning. We're like, we are not doing this again.
Yeah.
We're going to go back. We're going to eat dinner.
Yep.
We're going to be in bed by 10
Healthy
o'clock.
adults.
And every day on the way back, we
Yep.
would stop at the carryout and get a 12-pack.
Is that you or is that Dorsey?
It was Dorsey, obviously.
Clearly.
I mean, I went to Baylor, for God's sake. So it
yeah,
wasn't me.
yeah, high class.
I mean, how could you even ask that
How
question?
dare I know.
But literally, every day,
Right.
on the way home, it was
Right.
a 12-pack, and the story started all over again.
Right.
Nice.
All over again. And, yeah, so from that point in time, I knew Dorsey and knew Dorsey well, and we have hunted together, we have raced together, we have worked together, both in television and the World Challenge stuff, and a very dear friend of mine. There's only one of him, thank God.
At what point do you say this isn't going much farther unless I continue to really push myself into it?
93.
So 90, so 3 years prior.
No, I mean, seriously, it was like
At this point, you're mid-30s.
93.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is pretty much done.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the 94 thing, I mean, look, so Bob Liebert was not,
Appreciate it.
thank you, Rockwell,
Thanks, man.
not only a great guy, as far as wanting to be involved in racing, but had businesses around town and stuff. So I had moved from Houston up here.
Yeah.
And I worked for him when I wasn't driving a race car. So we had a golf course here in town, public golf course. And I actually, amazingly enough, used my business degree and helped with the marketing and the advertising of that golf course and drove membership and stuff like that. Then bought a golf club company, like a second tier that made private label stuff for golf shops and stuff, large chain golf shops around the country, and worked for him doing that. And I was like, the racing stuff is going to be gone soon. I mean, I had already done some television stuff, so there was an overlap. If you can imagine, a number line and another one underneath it where there's an overlap. When I won the Atlantic Championship in 1990, Jim McCallion, who's president of the Long Beach Grand Prix Association, was doing all the Atlantic television stuff. And he's like, hey, you won the championship. Would you be interested in doing color commentary for the championship next year? I'm like, sure, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
If it doesn't interfere with my Indy Light stuff. So I did that. That was my introduction into television. And in 1995, when I was doing the Trans-Am stuff, John Mullen, whom I mentioned earlier, was doing the television for the Trans-Am stuff, and it was at Road America. He said, hey, I want to do this interesting track piece. I'm going to grab 5 drivers, and I'm going to go drop you off in corners, and I'm going to have you talk a Trans-Am car through the corner. And I was one of those 5 guys that he grabbed, and we did the little piece. And for some reason, I don't know if John was desperate. I'd have to go through the list of guys who did corners at the time. He was like, you were really good at that. Would you be interested in doing some more stuff? So I got back into doing Atlantic television because John had it at the time. And then I did the runoffs for Speed Vision at the time. You mentioned speed earlier, Sean, so now we're going way back to Speed Vision. And kind of one thing led to another, and I was incredibly fortunate because it wasn't one number line on top of another number line on top of another. It was several number lines added up together. It was like, okay, so the racing was tapering off, but I still was working for Bob. Television was coming in, so there was this overlap, between the 3, and as one would go away, another would take on a greater, importance in my life. And 1993, Chris Neifel and Michelle Truman got together and started the Mid-Ohio School.
Right.
So Chris called me, and Chris and I started doing the schools up there. I did the first school in Mid-Ohio in 1993, and I've been doing schools basically up there ever since. So, one thing has kind of led to another, to another, to another, and I've been incredibly fortunate. I remember a long, long, long time ago saying, I don't want to be 50 years old and teaching racing schools anymore. I need to get a real job. And lo and behold, I'm 57 years old, still teaching racing schools, being a driver steward, still doing the television stuff, and all 3 things keep me involved in this mistress, which is like any other mistress. You can't seem to let go of.
Right.
And there's a positive side, and there's a negative side, but you can't let go.
Right.
When I was driving open wheel stuff, and I've said this to young race car drivers, and I say young race car drivers, Guy Cosmo would be the perfect example.
Yeah.
And Guy, I love you, but you're not
He's my
young
age or
anymore.
older,
But I can remember vividly standing in the paddock at St. Pete years ago, and Guy was pointing over to the other side, because when you're not in an IndyCar at St. Pete, you're
you're
cast.
out in the boonies.
There's a whole other side of the track you have to sit at.
Right.
And he's pointing over to the IndyCar paddock because I'm going to be over there. And I said, look, you need to make up your mind. You want to be an IndyCar driver, at which point in time your universe exists on the head of a pen, or do you want to be a professional race car driver? Because the two are mutually exclusive. I mean, if you're an IndyCar driver, you're a professional race car driver. But if that's all you want to do, your opportunities are slim. If you want to be a professional race car driver, your opportunities are endless. You know, there are all kinds of things that you can do to make a living. And I look back at that and I go, to me, I've been fortunate in that I didn't say, this is what I want to do in television. You know, this one thing. If I had to say that's the one thing I want to do, as much trouble as this would get me in with the sports car stuff, since I started in the open wheel stuff, even though I don't follow it on a regular basis because I follow what I work on, to me, the romantic side of racing is open wheel stuff. If I could call one race in the world, it would be the Indianapolis 500.
Who's got the best voice? Who's the best out there?
Who's got the best pipes?
Who's got the pipes? Who's got them?
Other than Gunselman. See, Varsha's got the best pipes.
Yeah.
But but the other thing about Varsha is that what Bob Varsha has taught me is that if you say it with conviction, it's true. It doesn't matter how wrong it is. It just, if you say it with conviction,
Right.
it's true.
So you're a pilot.
No, I fly airplanes.
Fair enough. Do you fly yourself to all the races, or just as many as you
To
can?
as many as I can.
Okay. So how does that work then? Like,
Pull back, houses get small. Push forward, houses get big.
done. That's all I
mean,
that's all I had.
what more do you
Yeah.
need to know, Ryan? I mean, you could do this. You drive race cars.
Well, my question is like you obviously buy the plane. It's your plane, right? You have like a little
It's
plane.
an expensive plane.
Okay.
It's really big.
Yeah.
Really big.
How hard is
really,
flying a G5?
Really expensive. Really,
So TV
really
money is
expensive.
good money.
Oh, it's massive. It's massive.
So you fly into like a small
When were you
airport
born?
generally 83
So my airplane is 10 years older
than me.
than you are.
Okay. All right.
And it's not mine. It's mine and my partner's. But
I got
not
you.
my. Let me.
I know you meant.
Not my partner.
Yeah, partners in the plane.
Yes, my partner
Right,
in the plane,
right.
not my partner.
It's not like Sean and I.
No, no,
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that,
okay,
Sean,
yeah,
no.
gotcha.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
but
no. Beautiful world out there. All right,
So yes, go ahead.
you go to like if I don't book my own plane ticket, the team does. It comes out of a budget. Do you bill the series?
See, now
for
you're
your,
going to get me in trouble.
None of this
Now
has to
you're gonna
stay
get
in the
me in
interview.
trouble.
You can always tell us not to use it. We're going to use it anyway.
You're going to use it.
Yeah.
Everything.
I know you are. So here's what I do. I go
Hear that,
online, I
Manzanelli.
figure out what an airline ticket costs,
Yeah.
and then I double it.
Right.
Yes.
And then
So
I
flying
turn that
private.
in. That's not what I do. That's not what I do.
And I pocket the rest.
So this is the thing that's actually kind of interesting. It is an older airplane. It's a 1973. It's a Piper Arrow. And I do have a partner in the plane. It costs less than any entry-level, full-size SUV. So you can kind of figure out what that costs. Great airplane. Not particularly fast, but it will get me where I want to go. 500-mile trips are perfect. And around Columbus, Ohio,
You can get anywhere.
You're kind of
I
central
mean,
to everything.
Yeah.
there are a lot of racetracks that I can get to. So what I actually do is I go online 2 weeks out, and I, air quote, buy a ticket. There are a couple of different airlines that if you're frequent flyer members of, you can buy a ticket and you've got 24 hours to cancel it. So I buy the ticket that I would fly. I look at extended weather forecasts, and I determine whether I can or whether I can't fly the plane. I'm not instrument rated yet. So, and my pilot friends get on me about that. But anyway, so I look at the weather and I go, I will or I won't. And if I make the decision of I will, I quote, air quote, buy the ticket. Within 15 minutes, I have the receipt. And 16 minutes in, I cancel the ticket. So I have the receipt, and I go, this is what it would cost me on the airline.
Right.
And that's the receipt that I turn in.
I got you.
And if it costs me more than that, it costs me more. If it costs me less, it costs me less.
Right.
I flew to Lime Rock, and I flew into Poughkeepsie, because if you're an aviator and you look at airports around Lime Rock, there are not a lot of them. So I flew into Poughkeepsie, and Poughkeepsie was one of those lose-lose propositions because it took me 3 hours to get to Poughkeepsie. It took me 4 hours and 5 minutes to get home because of the headwind.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather was crap after the race, and I
Right.
had to spend the night in Poughkeepsie. So I had a hotel room
Right.
plus 7 hours of airtime, I should have just gotten on a commercial flight
Sure.
and flown
Yeah,
into Hartford.
sure.
There have been other ones where
Is it cheaper? But I mean, once you add up like kind of stationing the plane at the private airport,
yeah, I
the
mean,
fuel, all that. I mean, is it
it's
maintenance?
rarely cheaper.
Right.
It's oftentimes. I mean, I've had flights this year that are within $1,
Yeah.
give or take,
That's funny.
of what the airline ticket would have been. But
But you can fly your
VIR,
own plane.
Yeah.
VIR, I
That's
can fly
awesome.
from Columbus into Danville.
Danville. Yeah.
Ah,
And my
that's
my
nice.
rental car comes to my little
Who else
airplane
can
and
say
picks
that?
me up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no flying into Greensboro or Raleigh, Durham.
Yeah.
I can fly into Sheboygan,
Yep.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
and I
Oh,
did that
that's
twice
And
this year.
Sheboygan's actually halfway between
Yeah.
Sheboygan and the track, so
Yeah.
if you're going straight to the track, it's really
And
close.
with 2 kids,
Yeah.
especially in the spring, the baseball games that I miss. I mean, you look at VIR is a good example. Road America is the same way. It really doesn't matter what time you finish on Sunday. If you race on Sunday at Road America, you're not getting home till Monday.
Right.
And if the weather's good and all that, I'm home Sunday night.
Yeah.
That's a baseball game on Monday, or at least cooking breakfast for the boys on Monday. And the one thing that it doesn't matter if you're Lewis Hamilton and you're making however much money in the world. That money will never buy you another day with your wife, and buy you another day with your kid, buy you that ability to sit and watch that first home run, or that throw down to second base and
Yeah.
my catchers, since my kids are catchers, or that base hit or whatever, and to see that look in their eyes of saying, "Oh, you're going to be there for the game?"
Right.
Yeah, I am.
That's cool.
Because you can get home. In addition to that, it's cool. The fact of the matter is, you're a race car driver. You want to fly an airplane? No?
No.
You're the only one I know that doesn't.
Just doesn't do much for me.
And it's funny because most of the people that I know that are either race car drivers or pilots, you can
Yeah.
swap them.
Right. Yeah.
Because the two are very similar. You rely on not only what your instinct is, but what your knowledge is to sometimes overcome the instinct that
Right.
is the wrong
Yeah,
instinct.
yeah.
And so it's a matter of controlling your emotion and controlling this object in this deal. And it's funny, since I wanted to be a pilot first, before I stopped on the way back from a flying lesson into the Heart of Texas Kart Club in Waco, Texas,
Yeah.
to me the two are very much connected. So to be able to use the aviation to get from the racing back to my family is kind of cool and
Yeah,
kind of
for
full
sure.
circle.
Full circle, yeah.
I guess.
exactly.
Awesome. Cool.
We do have to get rolling.
I was going to
but-
say, they're literally
yeah,
vacuuming
yeah,
up.
they're vacuuming.
So,
But one thing we haven't asked is your kids sound like they're pretty good baseball players. Why have they never karted, or have
No.
they just not into it?
No.
You won't let it, or
No,
they are
smart.
I
just
won't let it.
no,
yeah.
really?
No, I wouldn't.
No, I mean, if you had kids, would you let them race?
I mean, if they wanted to, I would let them do
Yeah.
anything. But I definitely wouldn't say this is what I want you to do.
Do I think they could? Yeah. Is my oldest son interested in cars? Absolutely.
Right.
Here's what I don't want. I don't want my 17-year-old son to say, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be a race car driver." I want my 17-year-old son who makes straight A's in high school and is in the STEM program to go become an engineer.
Right.
And design cars or whatever, and to have a life, because I know the life, I know the motorsports life. I know the toll it takes on your family. I know the toll it takes on your marriage. I know the toll that it takes on your finances. It is this romantic, I called it a mistress earlier, and it is, and it's all the things that a mistress is. She gives and she takes.
Yeah.
She gives and she takes.
Go more with takes.
Yeah. And there's more with takes. Absolutely, there's more with takes. And it's like some of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life have been involved in motorsports. I've been involved with motorsports. But some of the biggest heartbreaks I've ever had and some of the biggest disappointments I've had have been there as well. And I want to save my kids those heartbreaks. If they can find the highs by being involved in a different way, that's great. But it's been awesome for me. It's also been painful for me. and I don't want them to go through the pain. They have incredible opportunities in front of them in life, and this doesn't need to be that singular opportunity that's going to either make them or define them. So I'd prefer to keep it away from them.
All right, want me to close out?
Dick jokes.
No, it's too late. It's
Yeah,
too
it's
late.
too late.
Well, thanks for taking us to, where are we?
Columbus, Ohio.
No, what's the restaurant?
Cantina Laredo.
Cantina Laredo. You know Dario Franchitti, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the car and he's pissed.
Yeah.
He's got better hair than I do, and that's what pisses me off.
Doesn't use
more
any
than
product.
anything. No.
Doesn't use any
No,
product.
I don't know what he uses.
No, he doesn't use any
No,
product.
he has to.
Nope.
He doesn't
Nope.
wash his
Good
hair
genes.
then. He's got a certain amount of
I don't know
oil.
about that. Yeah.
Maybe it's a body oil.
just that
kind of
natural
stuff.
naturally
beauty.
beautiful. How dare you?
Yeah.
It really
How dare
pisses-
you.
How dare you?
Yeah. He's
Hey.
waiting in the car right now.
Hey, we got to go.
Yeah.
Continental's got the check.
I'm finished.
Huh? You like that, Brian Till? All right. Thanks again to Brian for taking the time. And you can always tell that guy is a proper racing instructor just because of the way he articulates and kind of slows down and explains all of his methodology, even though we just want goddamn good stories. So anyway, love that guy. Always happy to see him in the paddock. Always happy to sort of work in the same atmosphere. So anyway, let's get out of here with another new band submission. This one came from a group called Ruto. That's R-U-T-O. And you can find them at their website at iamruto.com. So that's iamruto.com. And this is a song called Skin Job. Skin Job.
I can't explain why I do these things to myself, like a brick to the face. I fell down with a fit of infection, and some insurrection, like a failing addiction, again and again. You're the one that stays inside my head, every word that leads me to a pain. It's your voice that's driving me insane. Can't explain the beat inside this chest. Give it a rest. Don't make a mess. Again and again and again and again. It's a crime to love and then misjudge. I'll do my time just to get away. I apologize for not reading the signs, but my thoughts are random sets of cards, only known to the reader. So don't mistreat her.